What's up, Team KBA? One Tech Traveler here. This is Last Shelter, and you're joining me in Season 5, Hero Drop 6. We are in the penultimate week of Eden Dissidia for our state, so pretty slow around that, just sort of finishing off the quest and rotating, cycling tiles, and looking forward to finishing that. If you're wondering why I'm wearing these headphones, it's because my wireless mics aren't working from my camera, so just to get better audio, I've just got it synced up to my phone to make sure you can still hear me well, and hopefully I can fix it. If not, you're going to see me wearing these in future videos for a while. This hero drop is very exciting. Got confirmation of what they would look like last week, after sort of narrowing down what the final six would look like. Honestly, if you've been patient with your tickets and been saving a lot of them, trying to look for a drop that has minimal risk but overall excellent quality heroes for the most part, or at least synergy combinations, Hero Drop 6 is a very exciting one. Like always, we're going to talk about each one of them, hero combinations and synergy, and why this particular drop is really awesome. And for confirmation, the 4 that you see featured here, we have the Huntress for vehicles, Predator, excellent support hero in the mid for shooters, Hunk for fighters, and then we have Canoness. That means the final 2 accompanying these 4 heroes in Drop 6 are Sven and Koche. So yeah, really strong. If you're kind of looking to build up your APC formations outside of vehicles, you're going to get a very strong one here. In terms of balance, we have just 1 vehicle hero, which is Huntress, 2 shooters in Predator, Koche, and that leaves us with 3 fighters, Canoness, Hunk, and Sven. Huntress, being one of the newest additions to SX, is also super strong. She's really dope, and again, I've sort of anticipated she would be up there with Death Rider and a great alternative to Captain Ivanov, and also very different in the way that she works as well. So for hero quality, I would place her as a 9. I think she's super strong, and she's gone above expectations of what I like from her. But there's a few things as well for consideration and to note. She's a 9 for me. In terms of shooters, we do have Predator and Koche. Predator I also rate super highly, and I actually would say is a top pick. She's just an excellent buff, kind of like Major Anna, and I think she's going to, and she also makes a lot of the top meta formations for either shooters or mixed APCs. Koche, a very solid and strong defensive type of shooter here in the front row. I'm really bordering between an 8 and a 9. I think it's that strong, and picking up Predator is going to really give you great odds in the future. I would say it's an 8.5, but since I'm working on whole integers, I would put it at a 9. I think both of them are strong. Predator, super strong as a support hero. So 2 9s, that leaves us with Canoness, Hunk, and Sven. Are they going to make the 9 rank as well? I would say it's going to border between 8 or 9. And there's a few considerations, but I would actually also give it a 9. Very strong in different ways with this overall hero drop, and the heroes and the other heroes in it, I think it also makes it a 9. So 9 across the board, really strong, more focused on the fighters and the shooters. So actually for me, where shooters are kind of my weakest, I do have a well fleshed out fighter set that these would accompany, but also be happy to have another alternative vehicle hero damage dealer in the Huntress. So 9 across the board. If you got at least a good amount of tickets to pull a couple of these heroes to set you in your second SX season and beyond, definitely do it. Of course, average RNG is going to be 80, but if you get better RNG than that, then you can really look forward to picking up some very strong heroes. There's really not one that I can falter. Of course, there are much stronger ones than others, but I think across the baseline, they all serve a purpose. So with that out of the way, we can finally talk about these heroes. So the Huntress, let's get the sole vehicle hero out of the way. She's actually been really exciting and also quite a big game changer in the way that meta formations work because of the way that Huntress works. She's that good and that influential that it changes things up, which is nice. Jungle Duel, so whereas it normally ignores 25% of the hero resistance, kind of like your skill 4 for the first 3 turns, it doubles that to 50%, so just completely negates the skill 4 buff in a hero. What makes it super strong is that it can lock onto the enemy position based on where she sits. So if you put her in front row, she will target the front row for 3 turns, mid row of the enemy, back row of the enemy, and is probably the key skill of what makes you have to shift around an APC formation if you come up against her. Next one up, Wild Pounce. 50% chance, triggers often and is a passive skill, so it just works underlying as an attack. Deals 350% damage to a target, which is also reasonable. It's kind of more of the high frequency of triggering and the average like damage output that makes it good. And then it also has a 50% chance on top of when this skill triggers to inflict suppression for 1 turn. So overall it's like a 25% chance of the suppression ability happening from this. But overall, a very good combination, kind of like Captain Ivanov's, I think, AP rounds, which does damage and then also has a 1-turn suppression. Awakening, 15% increased vehicle damage, has a 40% might on the formation, and then finally Deadly Claws, also a passive skill, so no combat skill that can easily be countered. 35% chance, which is still decent enough to trigger more on the reliable side rather than inconsistent, and deals 600% bonus damage, which is pretty huge. What makes this great is if the squad's troop is less than half of what they start off with. So if they have the full 108,000 troops and it goes down to below 54k, it deals even more damage. That makes it super strong at 810%. And yeah, overall huge damage, lump sum, either towards the beginning or just stronger as you go in battle. So she's super deadly. It's one of my top picks in this pool. And that's the Huntress. Predator, again, Predator also a top pick, a super strong shooter support hero that reminds me in many ways of Major Anna, but I think she's more focused for shooters and plays well with other heroes. So first of all, Command Traverse. First 4 turns, the casting of a skill 5 is increased by 10%, so it gives it a high chance of activating by 10%. Limited to combat and passive skills, but that's going to cover you for the majority, so seeing the synergy of what skill 5 looks like will really bolster that a lot. And then from turn 5 onwards, it increased that by a huge 30%, so it becomes even more regular. I believe this is only for the 5th turn, so just once. It's not 6, 7, and 8, but very strong nonetheless, and is kind of a mid to late turn sort of effect. But it only activates that for one of the heroes, so it could be either the front or the back. So if you get good synergy of their skill 5s taking advantage of this, it's going to be really good nonetheless, so I like that a lot. Command Isolate, when any squad of yours is countered, like silenced, disarmed, suppressed, confused, the damage received is reduced by 70%, which again is huge enemy sort of debuff damage skill. Reminds me a lot of Organic, who has that same sort of setup for vehicles, who plays well with a counter sort of environment and then also reduce enemy damage by 70% in that state. So pretty much has that organic effect for shooters, but also deals a pretty big 510% damage to random enemy squad for 2 right at the beginning, and then also in turn 5. So a nice combination there. When she's awakened, it's a plus 15% damage. Also the same for the formation by 40%. And then finally her skill 8, Empower, a prep skill. During battle, no more attacks are disabled for the hero's squad, so she will disarm herself or just won't release a basic troop attack, kind of like Countdown, and I believe also Rose Noir, but it provides a +1 basic troop attack, so an additional attack for the back row. Now, of course, with shooters, they emphasize a lot on the basic troop attack. So having an additional one of that can trigger other effects, just deal more damage, or, you know, release a counter is very good. And it has that stackable damage effect like Major Anastasia, where for each normal attack increases the damage of the next skill by 12%, and that stacks up to give you a total of 60%. So super strong there, really liking that. Again, she's a top pick for me and will play well with any shooters or formations that can take advantage of that basic a troop attack addition. And also has a skill 5 that this can activate on, that releases either more damage or higher chance of triggering a counter. Really awesome there. Some ideas, of course, would be Nomad, Rose Noir. And then we get to Canoness Saint Catherine. Canoness sounds dope. She also looks great. She is a support fighter hero, pretty versatile, and also has great hero synergy among the fighter formations. Arguably, you know, with healing being super strong in Season X, again, you're coming up with very good ones, but we still have Tech Priestess from Season 3, which still stacks up very well. Canoness is that alternative of also giving one of the best type of healing setups. That is her skill 2, Old World Genesis. It is a combat skill, so that's the only part where it can be countered depending where you put her, but the amount of healing she does is crazy. And also has a unique setup, so 50% chance it is going to trigger pretty frequently, which is good provided it's not countered. But you can see to heal, she heals herself and the front row. Huge 247% recovery rate, like the highest in terms of absolute numbers. In terms of the way this skill works, of course it is dependent on that triggering versus others that do it per damage, like Tech Priestess, which is maybe more consistent, but the amount of healing she does when it does trigger is huge. We also have this sort of double play condition here, where if she is in the front, she will increase the amount of healing she does by double. But if she's in the mid row, could be in the back, but I would say front and mid row are her primary placement depending on hero synergy, then she will heal the front and her for a total of 247. So not sure in terms of the weighting, it could depend on the amount of damage that they receive, but one thing you need to just take away from this, that the amount of healing she does is huge. His skill 5, Divine Purification, is kind of her more consistent like offensive damage output. 70% chance, so it's gonna trigger very often. 260% damage, not too much, but it does allows it to hit the furthest in the range. That sentence doesn't really mean too much since she only targets one, but I guess it's more of the consistency of if you place her in the mid, then it will take out the mid. If you place her in the front, then it will take out the back row. So it's a bit more of a guaranteed part there. I like the suppression on it for 1 turn that cancels out full combat skill and basic troop attack. Awaken plus 15% HP, which is what you expect mostly from fighter heroes. Defensive on the hero formation. And finally prayers. On turn 5, remove friendly front row debuffs when it takes damage, and 100% chance to dodge and be immune to this damage lasting 2 turns. So this is also a very strong skill. Granted, it's only at the mid to late turn of play at turn 5, but you know, if you are coming up against very high counter APC formations, like with an organic, with a Caesar, Heaven's Redemption, any heroes that have a lot of that have counters in its arsenal skill set, then having that guaranteed debuffing mid-turn kind of resets the playing field in that sense. And I also like how the front row has that 100% chance to dodge for 2 turns. Not sure if that's all attacks. That looks to be any kind of attacks from enemies, whether that's basic troops or combat skills, which makes this really strong. So even though it's on the 1 turn, it's a very powerful skill indeed. So another top pick and top tier hero in Canoness for fighters. Next up, we have the Koche. I do rate him highly within the shooter formation. He is a front row alternative to like Deus Ex Machina, Wings of Liberty. There's not too many front row alternatives, so I think Koche is very strong in that respect. He is defensive, similar to Deus Ex Machina, but has a slightly different skill set, and you would primarily want him in the front row. So first of all, his passive skill, after basic attacks, 80% chance of very high trigger to decrease damage by -20% for his own squad for 2 turns, and the status is stackable. So I like it. Kind of has some traits of enemy debuff status, enemy debuff effects from Deus Ex Machina. High chance, decent amount of damage reduction, not that much, and it lasts for 2 turns, which I like. But what makes this greater is the stackable effect. So over the 4 turn effect, if he lasts until the end of battle, then that damage reduction goes up to -100%. So skill 5, ambush, 50% chance, which is going to trigger fairly often. Deal 310% damage, which is okay to one enemy squad after basic troop attacks, but also recovers some troops for his own squad, which is 67% recovery rate. The recovery rate is good. I also like that it's a passive skill, so this will work underlying, and also possesses a good sort of healing setup and reinforces that whole defensive minded state that Koche is. Awakened, plus 50% HP, provides a defense, provides a resistance buff to your hero formation. And then finally, Bullet Hail is his sole combat skill. 35% chance to make 2 random friendly squads attack twice, which I like. 35% chance is decent, so it's going to trigger enough times to be reliably, or like at least hit fairly regularly in a battle. And it increases 30% damage for 2 turns. So I like this. This is of course more basic troop attack minded, so adding an additional basic attack is great. Pair that up with Predator, that also provides a +1 to the back row. This one applies both to the mid and the back row heroes as well, plus the increased damage. Really good. I'm really liking that. Whereas Deus Ex Machina is super heavy on the defensive stats, like doesn't offer anything offensively. I like Koche providing that sort of support feature for more of your damage dealers to take advantage of. So the hero synergy is very strong, whereas Deus Ex Machina is a bit more self-contained. So I highly rate Koche. I think he's not necessarily a top pick or like that huge of an influential hero, but I do rate him highly, that he has great hero synergy. His skill sets are also super strong and robust. We have Hunk, defensive fighter hero. He's quite an interesting one. In isolation, Hunk is not that strong, especially compared to fighters. He kind of pales in comparison, but he still has some pretty good skill sets, and if you set him up in the right formation, he could be really deadly as a top formation. So very specific, kind of like Valkyrie with Inquisitor Patriot. We'll see why in a moment, but yeah, isolation not so good compared to fighters, but in the right combination, deadly. So skill 2, Slaughter, when the squad takes damage. 25% chance to evade, which isn't so much, but it has a 50% chance each turn to increase damage by 50%. So this is just applied to him. He has a little bit of an evasive chance to dodge damage, not really that often, but I think independently also that 50% chance regularly to increase damage by 50% is pretty good. Yeet, his combat skill, 30% chance to make 2 random enemy squads and to confuse and flammable status. This is what makes him very good. Confuse not only randomizes the targets that enemy heroes could hit, so could hit their own squad or their own formation. That applies both to basic attacks and combat skills, so Confuse is kind of like one of the best counters. It also provides a 50% additional damage for 2 turns through the flammable status burning damage. Haven't seen a confirmed buff that plays well with Scarlet Sirens, SX Fighter Offensive Hero skill, or the Executioner, even though that's a shooter. So that skill I like it because of its counter, plus 15% HP on his Awakening, provides a resistance to the formation, and then finally his Prep skill. This is arguably what also makes him slightly edgy of becoming just a okay rated hero, and then in the right formation becomes super killer. The first 6 turns, all friendly squads have a 37% increased combat speed. 50% of the damage taken will be tallied on turn 7, and then there's a pre-battle round deal 469% damage to 2 random enemy squads. So this is really interesting. He has a bit of that friendly buff, and 37% increased combat skill speed might not sound that much, but it gives him a little bit of an edge over heroes that actually don't have any combat speed buff, which is quite a lot of them. Assuming, you know, if their tech parts and all of that are equal, then it does give them priority in the order of turns, and also means, you know, allow his counters and stuff to apply in that turn and the next turn as well. A good example of that is for that Confuse, compare that to Tech Priestess. It does give him an edge for him to counter her first. Damage taken is also really neat. Turn 7s towards the end of battle. Hopefully he will last until that late if you have good synergy, but when he does, it means all of the damage that you've absorbed up until turn 7, 50% of that will be dealt as damage to them, which can be huge, and is a good sort of counter to those high damage APCs. From my understanding, if I get it wrong, let me know. It's a prep skill too, so it can't be countered, and then I like how before battle has started, he already deals damage to 2 of them, 469% damage, so it's kind of like a cheeky punch before the actual battle starts. So yeah, that is Hunk. And then finally we have Sven, who is the final fighter hero. Sven, primarily you'd want him in the front row. You can play in the mid. Honestly, I would say combat wise, he's average. He's not really gonna do you there, but that's not where Sven shines. He is a highly rated, and I could even say top pick, because of just how good he is and how specialized in his area that no other hero can sort of do. And that is with force tiling, high poison, with the right sort of setup, everything else like pass, tech and such. You can catch up to 100% poison from what I hear. But even then, you can easily take over 40% with the, you know, Captain Ivanov and Panther. In that setup, when they're all maxed, they can do some serious damage from the beginning of your season. So he is great in that respect, and what makes him highly sought even within this hero drop. Like, it just is very strong. A Bloodbath, 30% increased damage for the squad when the troop count is halved. You get an additional 100% might and resistance. This is for his squad, but that 50% increased damage is huge, especially when you are like taking high poison. When it goes down to half, then you get an additional 100% might. So it looks like it will be 150%. I need to check battle reports if I ever get him. If someone knows, confirm it down below. But that skill is very good with increasing the amount of damage beyond what their normal skills allow. Skill 5, after basic attacks, with guaranteed 100% chance. It is a passive skill, so it can't be countered. Deals 240% damage to an enemy squad in range, so I like how you just have high consistent damage output. So this will hit like the first 3 turns in a force tiling scenario, but it is guaranteed nonetheless. Plus 50% damage here, so again, everything just front loading a lot of offensive buffs. And then no return. This is what sets him apart from everyone else. So we have that current troop power when it's halved. We also have the 100% chance to basic attack twice. You think about the formation with Ivanov and Panther. You have the splash damage. You increase the amount of basic attacks that they deal. He adds a little bit of that sort of extra troop attack just for him twice. But when the squad is defeated or broken morale, the hero will fight on for 1 more turn. So he would even though the formation is routed like from high poison, he would actually stay for one more round, and that is big. So I really like Sven for that. He's an exciting hero for Doomsday seasons, for tiling, for high poison. What makes him, and that's what makes his worth really strong here and is a top pick. He becomes maybe not as worthwhile if you don't have Panther or Captain Ivanov. However, even in a makeshift off meta formation for taking high poison, Sven is going to be a great addition that you can build around. But if you have Panther Ivanov, like, this becomes an even a better hero drop 6. So those are your 6 heroes in this final small drop. Again, really strong. You have higher synergy across these heroes. So the fact how Hunk and Predator are in this is awesome. Koche and Predator also make a very strong front and mid shooter formation to build a offensive damage dealer if you got Nomad. Canoness, again, if you have Tech Priestess, Canoness, and then either Scarlet Siren for an all-fighter formation, or if you want to go mixed APC, you can put a damage dealer of Hummingbird, of Nomad. Like, you can kind of play around with it, but that is a super strong, like, very high healing type of formation. You can also put Glutton with Canoness, and then Huntress, the alternative to Death Rider and Captain Ivanov. If you weren't able to pull Death Rider and kind of want to bolster your vehicle damage output that you deal, and since you kind of use them on a regular basis, like, you can see across the board why I've given it all 9s. I think they are great formation build-ups and strengtheners, and also game changers into your formation. So if you have as many tickets, I would honestly suggest to drop them all in. After this, it is just the final all 24 hero pool that most of the time you're not really going to want to drop, because it's just super large. The possibilities of getting dupes is going to be very unlikely, but unless you're kind of going for the spread of heroes. But these smaller pool heroes, and in particular hero drop 6, is a great focus one for you to really double down on. So that is hero drop 6. Quite a long one, but I thought there was a lot of really great details and understanding of what makes this super strong, super special, and it's a nice way to finish up on the first SX season. Thanks a lot for joining Team KBA. Like always, if you pulled your tickets in Hero Drop 6, sound it off down in the comments. It's really great to hear some of your great pickups, even funny stories in Hero Drop 5 in the comment section. So I always look forward to reading them and commenting and seeing them, as well as giving some advice or tips with how you want to play with the number of tickets. Story highlight, I think it was Devil's Eye, who pulled 700 tickets, which was like huge. Honestly, felt so sorry for you, buddy, with getting 5 Wanderers. You definitely bested my sort of side eye for the guy that I kind of want him to leave me alone. Looks like he's just been attracted to you all this time. But yeah, so shout out to you. Devil's Eye were also in the same Eden map, and you will also see him pulling at the same time while I was pulling my tickets. So check out my S5 ticket pull video. A lot of laughs. But yeah, let me hear your thoughts. How many tickets, how many heroes, whether you were happy with what you got. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. With us kind of finishing up Eden, I also want to give a heads up. I'm going to start creating some Eden focused videos as I've had enough experience to see what it's like, learn some like best practices, tips, and things to consider to help those who are coming in Eden, or if you got Dissidia coming up. Again, I'm not like the most strongest, knowledgeable, experienced, or like a Sven type of gamer, but I do try and dabble into each and get an understanding of them all, so that I can help you enjoy the game, play smart, have fun, and yeah, helping the Last Shelter Team KBA community. So that wraps up the video. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't yet, join the Team KBA community by subscribing to my YouTube channel, and check out onetechtraveler.com for more stories, articles, and videos around tech, travel, and gaming. I'll see you in the next one, but until then, keep being awesome. Peace.